Hey, Facebook family. I just finished a training, so I'm all suited up. And this was on my mind, and I wanted to share it with you. It's been coming up repeatedly is, why we continue to repeat the same patterns in life. And I've been on such a deep journey learning and discovering the depth of this. And if you hear noise in the background, my kittens found these they're having fun. They're playing, they're in their morning play zone. So that's what the noise is if you hear it in the background. But the conversation is really about, what's up, Brian? How you doing, brother? Today's conversation is really about why we continue to repeat the same patterns in life. So first I want to talk a little bit about what this is and how it affects us. I feel like and the only way I can share it is I could share from personal experience and things that I kept attracting into my life, that kept showing up into my life, and how I dealt with them. And it took me to this point to really get clarity on them. Hey, Alicia. Hey, Kelly. Good to see you guys. Hey, Tony. So for me, and I'll give you just an example of my life and some patterns that affected me and why they kept showing up, and how no matter what I do to try to overcome them, they kept being there. And I don't know if you can relate. For me, I tended to attract the pattern of betrayal. I don't know if you can relate to it as a partner. Like I would attract women in my life, then I would experience betrayal through the women that I would attract, or business partners. And I would have a constant pattern of kind of like feeling not enough, feeling attacked. This is an achiever. I definitely consider myself an achiever. I would achieve amazing results in all these places that I would go. I would show up really strong for partners and somehow have this constant pattern in my life that I was attracting partners of this kind of cheating partner dynamic. And I would also attract business partners where I didn't feel a sense of validated. I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel enough of what I was attracting. And so I'd create this whole business. I'd get something off the ground. I would create a ton of revenue, and then something would happen and fall out. My reaction was to pull away. I didn't stand my ground. I didn't hold my space. I would pull away. And this is uncomfortable for me to share. I will say, the more work I dive into vulnerability, the more I'm realizing how uncomfortable it is, especially as a man, to talk about our vulnerabilities. We've been trained our whole life that to be strong as a man, growing up through sports, military, just school in general. We're trained from the young age, don't cry. Men don't cry, women don't cry, big girls don't cry, men don't cry. We're conditioned, get over it. And usually, in order to succeed at something, a lot of times with failure, like when I grew up playing sports, you fail a lot of times. If you sit there and mope about it and cry about it and are, kind of in a poor me state, it doesn't help the situation. So there's a validity to being strong. There's a validity to getting things done. There's nothing to take away from handling things and getting it done. However, what I've discovered is, what's a common pattern? If there's a pattern that you've noticed through your life and there's like an area of self-sabotage, for me, I never was willing to look at it because it didn't seem big enough to me. Even though I would have these experiences of betrayal or whatever, I still was making a lot of money. I still was having big successes. I still felt amazing of the people or the companies or the things that I was doing. So it didn't seem to me like a pattern. In my mind, I was thinking, life's good. I'm crushing it. I'm making money. I'm sculpting my body. I've been dating amazing, powerful, empowered women. But my experience of it is the stories behind the wall. If I go back behind my layer of external, right, this is what I'm doing. This is the man I am. And if I went back behind that and actually looked at the areas I was a little uncomfortable with myself, the areas where we're alone with ourselves and we're distracting. What are we running from when we're alone with ourselves and we don't want to look at something? And we get busy. For me, I would get busy with a lot of other projects. I take on all these other projects. I would get so busy I had no time for me, or I would get obsessed with workouts, and I would work out twice a day, nonstop. Or I would go into other phases where I would move into TV and watch TV by myself, like on the weekends. And so there was these weird phases that I would go through, even though it seemed like externally I was doing what I wanted, creating what I wanted, feeling the sense of pride and achievement. There was something behind the scenes that I was an area of self-sabotage, if you will. There's an area of patterning that I didn't know how to deal with. There's an area I didn't know how to solve. I didn't know how to get clarity around. And I don't know if you can relate. I think, and what I learned is in order to succeed, you just push it to the side and get over it. So as you're constantly putting things in boxes, I guess as a man, that's what we do. We compartmentalize. So you go, okay, this didn't work, put it in a box and go break through it. This didn't work, put it in a box, break through. So what you learn is, I think we don't learn how to deal with heartbreak. You go through a breakup, a really bad breakup, where I know for me, really in love with a woman, and something happens, whether it was a betrayal or whether it just didn't work. And instead of feeling what that felt like, I would put it in a box and go work, or go work out, or go get things done, or be busy, or distract myself, and not really deal with these emotions, if you will, because I was and it makes sense. We've all been trained not to deal with them. So how would I know how to deal with them? How would I know how to process them? How would I know it? And what I'm discovering is it challenged everything about who I am as a man to even deal with them, right? Because I've been taught if you're vulnerable, you get taken advantage of. If you're vulnerable, it means you're weak. It means you're whatever anybody else would call me as a child. If I actually owned my vulnerability, if I owned my feelings, if I owned what was going on. So we avoid it. We avoid what's happening. And in the avoidance, we get a sense of peace. We get a sense of momentarily pleasure, avoidance of where this is going from. So, what we're doing is we're basically living in here. We're living in here, and that's why we keep repeating the same patterns, because we're not allowing ourselves to feel what's going on beneath the surface. We're not allowing ourselves to be present with ourselves. And because we can't be present with ourselves, we're not allowed to feel what's going on. And we essentially, the body, the mind, is keeping us protected from our feelings, our feelings of which may feel painful, because that's how we dealt with it to handle what we handled in the past. So I want to bring this conversation to life because it works in a lot of instances. In a lot of instances, it works really well for you. And I'm not saying to not do it. So I'm not here to say, don't do these things. What I'm here to say is some of the areas you may have wired yourself to succeed in life in major areas, like maybe the way you're wired to succeed in business. I see this in a lot of the men that come to the retreats are very successful men that have achieved a lot of financial success or a lot of business success, and how they've wired themselves to succeed in business is affecting them personally. They feel like they influence them. They're stuck internally, or they feel like they're not as present with their wife and their kids as they'd like to be. They achieve in business, and because there's something not working, they isolate, they pull themselves away. There's some pattern of self-sabotage that doesn't work, even though they've achieved massive success, even though somebody may sculpt their body. So I want to bring this conversation to light, and I think it's powerful because so much of the time our patterns, these areas of life that we do over and over and over and over again, we never stop to take the courage to be with those emotions. We never stop and it's okay because we've never been taught how. So I understand this, and I'm learning this the more I research about grief, the more I research about loss, and see that our society has massive resistance to it, and good reason, because a lot of times it's not needed. It's not needed all the time. So it's not an every case challenge where something happens and we need to sit there and go into this huge process. But what I am discovering is the challenges that you keep repeating. If you've wanted to save money for years and years and years, and some reason you self-sabotage and go into these other patterns, if for some reason you've wanted to have this amazing relationship and you keep attracting the same type of men or women into your lives, and then you're like, feels like self-sabotage. If you've wanted to quit gaming or alcohol or substance or pornography or whatever it is you're wanting to do, my invitation to you is to take a look at potentially that's a way that your body's protecting you from feeling. It's your way that your body's protecting you from some trauma, some pain from your past that you haven't allowed yourself to deal with. You haven't allowed yourself to feel, to process, and it's trying to express itself. It's trying to say, hey, I'm feeling hurt. I'm feeling pain. I'm feeling this pain, and you never let yourself feel it. Instead, you pushed it down, you put it in a box, and you went and handled life. And because you've handled life, you end up with these patterns. So what I'm discovering, and to tie this all together, the reason you keep repeating the same patterns is because you haven't allowed yourself to feel what's trying to be expressed. You haven't allowed yourself to take a pause, sit with yourself. Like the next time you feel yourself wanting to distract, run, avoid any of those things, take a pause. Say like, time out, Let me take a pause and let me feel. Like, what's up? What's up with right now? What's up with me? Let me be present with me. Let me feel what's beneath the surface. And what you're going to notice, and I see some of these comments like, Kelly, yeah, it's pain. And you're going to feel that pain. But what I'll tell you is this: it's not the pain. It's we've made it so avoidance to pain that we're running from it. And it's not that hard. All we have to do is pause, take a time out, pause, and say, wait a second, I'm doing these things because I'm in pain. Let me feel in and ask my body what pain I'm in. And as we're able to drop into our heart, as we're able to feel, we can identify what's beneath that layer of pattern. And you can feel what's truth. And what's truth is the heart. And the heart is usually some form of pain. And as you're mindful with this pain, you can feel this pain and you can start to identify it. And you can identify it as density. Oh, it feels heavy. It feels this. It feels that. And it starts to move through us. And I'm finding this is really helpful in, let's say, relationships. Let's apply this to a couple areas. Let's say as a man, I was talking to a woman 2 nights ago, and she told me about an experience of a man that they went to dinner. And at dinner, he got her this really nice, expensive dinner. They went out. And as they're at dinner, they went to this nice club. He spent way too much money, right? And I'll tell you, ladies, as a man, a lot of times, to me, this is the same pattern. We've thought in our psyche somewhere that I'll feel enough if I achieve. So we build it in our psyche to break through dealing with anything, to go handle stuff, to go make money, sculpt our bodies, whatever it is, to go achieve this thing. And then once we think we've gotten this thing, we attach our identity, our worth, our value to it. And so what ends up happening is we think this is what the value is. And so because of it, because we haven't allowed ourselves to feel here. So because we have our identity attached on here, we take a woman out, they're on a date, and I've been here before. That's why I can relate to it. I have compassion for it. And then we're triggered. She gave me, this is the story. I'll tell you the example. They were out at dinner. She really likes intimate moments to just connect and have a good conversation. She doesn't really care where they go. But he made it this, and she just wants to connect, but she likes the little things. She likes his presence. She likes for him to pay attention, like, oh, she got all dressed up and she did her makeup and she put on a nice dress and she had this jacket and she was cold. So, she liked the little things of being present enough to notice, oh, she's trying to put her jacket on. Can you help put her jacket on? Like some things that you would do as a gentleman and respect a woman. And instead, as the guy, he was in his head trying to feel worthy enough by the dinner that he created to create this big elaborate thing to prove that he was enough to her, to really prove that he's enough to himself. And then as he does it, he goes out there and creates this experience. And then she says, can you help me with my jacket? And expresses a little bit of hurt because in the moment she just wanted her jacket put on and she actually didn't like the whole event that he put together because she likes close, intimate conversation. So the irony was he did it for him. He didn't do it for her. He thought he did it for her because he thought his value was through his wealth. And he thought that by creating this experience that demonstrated his wealth, he'd feel enough. And so it's about him. It wasn't about her. So he wasn't seeing her. He wasn't present. He wasn't listening to her. He wasn't creating an experience of intimacy with her. And in that, he wasn't noticing and being present with her. He was in his head the whole time, trying to feel enough by the experience. And then he got triggered. So the pattern would be, here's this really externally successful man, makes a ton of money, very successful in his career, very good looking aesthetically. Yet he takes this amazing woman out, very empowered, strong, beautiful, feminine woman out on a date. And now he's trying to prove his worth through his money and which is all head, trying to prove his worth through his money. He's trying to prove his worth. And then he's triggered like a little boy because she makes a comment to him about, could you put my jacket on, or expresses something that she needs. And the reason he's triggered is because he's in his head and he's not feeling. So here's the pattern. The pattern is, this is what's funny. I do these men's retreats and a lot of men are like, I'm good, because they don't want to admit they're vulnerable. They want to be, hey, I'm good. I got a lot of money. I got this. Great. I'm glad you do. But here's how the pattern applies. These instances where a man goes into his life and then he's triggered like a little boy. And I say, because I've been there. I've been that little boy where I go throw a temper tantrum. And I'm like, why am I throwing a temper tantrum? Right? This is miserable, but what it is, and here's the truth. The truth is that the man wanted to do his best, and he thought with his tools that if he created this experience, if he gave her this experience, he would feel prideful. Like, look what I created. Look what I achieved through the money I created. I created this experience. And then he felt not enough because instead of her complimenting what he created, she expressed what was missing. She expressed that she didn't feel connected to. So what happened was the pattern that was triggered was his little boy of not feeling enough was triggered. So instead of feeling that, he went into his head and lashed out with anger and a little boy child, which created friction, which created challenge in the dynamic. So let's look at it a different way. Let's look at, he goes in the situation, same scenario, because I'm not saying we have this healed in one moment, but let's say a man goes in this scenario, he does that same experience. She expresses, hey, I'd really like you to put my jacket on. I'm cold. I would want some support. And all of a sudden he feels triggered. Instead of reacting, he could take a moment, take a breath, take a time out, take a pause, and feel like, oh, wow, I'm feeling triggered. What's up? And he'd probably feel like, wow, I'm feeling not enough. I feel like I created this experience. I did these things. I'm feeling not enough. Is that true? No. And then in that feeling, that moment, he could either be vulnerable and communicate vulnerably like, hey, I wanted to create a really amazing moment for you, and I created this beautiful experience, and I'm feeling vulnerable right now. I'm feeling like it wasn't enough, or I'm feeling like what I created didn't satisfy you. Could be one way of communicating authentically. Another way that he could approach it is he could just be present and acknowledge that and feel that and go, is that true? No. And then see what she needs and go, oh, she needs her jacket. And he can make it fun. He can make it playful. He could take the jacket off and say, let's take it off and put it back on again. Or he can make a playful joke of like, I want to take it back off. So I guess what I'm saying is the instant she shared with me, this turned into a big drama, a big fight, and it was all this big problems where it could have shifted into something playful, fun, intimate, connected, as we're able to feel what's really going on with us. And I would also say he might have also realized, wow, if he could get to a place of vulnerability with himself, he might have realized, hey, I created this whole thing for me, not her. And how do I be more present in her and what she needs? And how do I create an experience by listening, by being present, by being in the moment with her on what she needs to create an experience around her that I'm still going to get fulfillment? Because as a man, we get fulfillment on being the hero. We get fulfillment on creating an experience that a woman lights up around. We get fulfillment feeling like, I conquered. I conquered because, look, as a man, I was able to create an experience, and I can see in her physiology, I can see in how she responds. She's lit up. She's radiant. She's feminine. That makes us feel like proud. So what I'm discovering is a lot of the time we try to use our partners, and our ego gets in the way. Exactly. I see some of the comments, to not be vulnerable. But if you think about it, we've been trained our whole lives that way. And so we're all walking around as hurt children, basically hurt children, repeating these patterns over and over again. And then we think it's the partner. Oh, she didn't understand. I need to find another partner. It's not about, then we make up a story. Oh, she doesn't appreciate me. She doesn't appreciate what I do for her. I need to find a woman that appreciates me. And we go on this whole big, long story about what worked, what didn't work, to feed our ego, to validate our ego that we're enough. When really we could feel into it and go, oh, if the truth is, I feel not enough because I created this experience and it didn't work. But we can also tell ourselves the truth and say, am I present? Is that what she needed? Did I create this for her? Did I create it for me? And if I didn't create it for her, then no wonder she's not feeling acknowledged, because it's about me, right? And I think so much of the time we're creating things about ourselves to feed our egos, to overcome the uncomfortability we're feeling with ourselves. So another example of the pattern is, and this was just an experience that I recently heard about, and I've been there as a man trying to feel enough through validating women through my money. And what I'm finally getting to is, as I'm able to drop into my heart, all that fades away. And I still like to create amazing experiences. Don't get me wrong. That's part of how I'm wired. I consider myself a magic moment maker, and I'm very present and like to see the experience, but I'm realizing it's not about my money. It's not about my body. It's not about these external things that make me a man, that make me enough. And it's about me being at peace with me. It's about me loving me and fully embracing all the parts in me, including the parts of me of this hurt child as a child, whatever moments in my life damaged me, if you will. And me being able to sit with that and be with that and love those parts of me, that's what makes me a man. And that's what I'm discovering is that's what takes away the patterns. That's what takes away the triggers. That's what it's the courage to look at the parts of ourselves that we've been trained our whole lives not to deal with, not to own, to run from, to put into boxes. And because we've been trained that way, we're not dealing with any of those areas. And so they show up with these patterns, but the patterns aren't the patterns. The patterns are ways, these elaborate stories that we create in our minds in order to protect ourselves from feeling what's in our hearts, right? They're these elaborate stories. And so I was actually talking to a good buddy a couple of days ago, and same thing. And I'm just going to talk about a number of patterns because there's these patternings and it's lineage. It goes through lineage and lineage and lineage. It's passed down. And he was talking about his son. And he was telling me, man, it's really difficult because him and his wife are separated, ex-wife are separated. And it's really tough because he loves his son. And his son created a restraining order, like all these things against his dad. And his dad's just trying to do the best he can. And as I take the general premise that everybody's doing the best they can. Everybody's doing the best they can with the tools they got. And if anything they're doing seems outwardly, it's because they're trying to protect themselves, and that's how they've learned to do it. So when we were able to feel into the situation, he's really hurt by it because he wants to do nothing more than help his son. And his mother, he feels, is programming his son with these different things. So he's doing things to please his mother. So you see how the energy is kind of built. Is my observation would be, think back to him as a child when life changed and they got separated. And you have a child who craves his mother's attention and you crave your father's attention. And maybe his mother's attention as a young boy is nurturing. You're trying to support her. A lot of times I find a challenge with women is a lot of times, and I say women, it can be men too. As parents, here's a different way to frame it. As parents, a lot of times in order to feel, if we don't feel enough inside, we tend to get it from the kids. And if we tend to get it from the kids and program them with our stories, now they're stuck in life trying to give us enough by living their life. So my observation of this scenario would be, here's this child who loves his mom dearly, who doesn't feel enough with their divorce, and is in trying to love herself, is trying to lash out at her husband, ex-husband, and protect herself, and uses the kid even to do it. And it makes her feel, she doesn't have to feel her feelings of not enough. She doesn't have to feel her vulnerability where she made mistakes and where it didn't work, and those same feelings that got triggered. So it's easier to cover that up with making somebody judgment, making somebody to make, hold on a sec, these cats are going cray cray, hold on. Hey kiddos, come here. Say hi. Say hi to everybody. Say, what's up guys? They're like, what's up? What's going on? We're troublemakers today. They're like, we're making troublemakers. Trouble. So, so I bring this awareness to you that it's like at the end of the day, we're all doing the best we can. And I think so much of the time, in order to not avoid pain, we're all in pattern. So the patterns, in order to not avoid pain of feeling, is we move into these patterns of story, and then we feel better about ourselves when we do these stories. And we think somebody else is out to get us. But really, the whole thing is we're living in our heads. We're living in our heads in these stories of past and future. And it's all based on the general premise that we're afraid to feel. We're afraid to feel from something that happened to us as children. And what I'm discovering is it's part of our blueprint. We can't get away from it. It's like we go through life, and as children, there's this moment when life, as child, we're innocent, and we see this picture of life, and something happens to change that forever. And when that thing happens, our wounded child is created. And what I'm discovering is you don't get to lose it. It's not going to go away. That's part of our divinity. It's actually part of our beauty. We've just not dealt with it as long as we've not dealt with everything else. So, and I'm not saying it's wallowing. Again, my observation of wallowing is in the head still. Wallowing is a poor me story. But it's the ability to feel the depth of our pain and our pleasure and validate ourselves. That is what sets us free. So I invite you to be courageous. I invite you to be courageous with sitting with yourself. I invite you to be courageous with the next time you feel an addiction, a process addiction, a numbing addiction, an avoidance addiction from being too busy, to watching TV, to drinking alcohol, to social media, to pornography, to being too busy, achievement, whatever it is, but you notice the awareness that you're not wanting to be with something, or you catch yourself in the awareness of a pattern. If you're in pattern, you're in here. Maybe if you're with a partner and you're with somebody that you're dating, or a husband or wife, or a partner, and you notice yourself in a fight, observe, are you in your heart or are you in your head? Chances are you're in your head. The next time you observe yourself self-sabotaging with money, self-sabotaging with career, different things that show up in your life, your patterns, spending money, avoiding people, not speaking your truth. There's a huge pattern with people not speaking their truth. I find there's either this, there's people overcompensate and are assholes, if you will, angry in people's face, this angry energy, or they're the opposite. And to me, they're just as big of assholes, right? They don't say a word. They disappear. They play small. They like, how is that not even? Right? To me, it's just as even because nobody learns. Nobody gets the lessons. And we're wired that way in how we deal with our core wounds. I feel like we go through life as children, something happens, and in order to protect ourselves from that moment, we either disengage, run away, protect ourselves, or we stand up and fight. And when we fight, we become overly fighting. So what it is that wiring, that armor. So let's break this down. I'm going through life. I'm an innocent little child. Something happens, a divorce. My dad didn't love me. My mom didn't love me. My peers didn't accept me. Rape. Something happens to us to break that innocence as a child. And when that innocence happens, the way we deal with that, the way we cope with that, is we build a sense of armor. The armor can look like avoidance, isolation, not speaking our truth, not having our power, not having a voice. It can look like playing small, avoiding, or it could do the opposite. We overcompensate. We get angry, abusive. We overcompensate in one direction. We either pull totally away or we overdo the other, because what it is we feel, here's love. When we feel love and this innocence is here and this innocence is broken, this heartbreak, that's where we feel the wounds, and we don't want to feel it. So in order not to feel that heartbreak, because here's what we're taught, get over it, get up and get stuff done. The only way to get over it is to move into our head and to go get things done. And as we move in to get things done, most of us have learned not to feel this. And the way we get over it is we get angry at something to go handle something, or we avoid it and go in a different direction. But either way, we've not dealt with this feeling. So what happens is we built this armor over many years, and most of us have gotten successful, if you call it success, from walking away from situations every time there's conflict. Who can relate? Who's ever been in a situation and there's conflict and you feel this energy coming at you and you don't stand your power, you don't honor yourself, you don't speak your wisdom, you don't speak your truth. Instead, you walk away. You play small. Or the opposite. Who overcompensates when you don't feel enough by lashing out and attacking somebody, making somebody else feel small when you don't feel enough. So at the end of the day, they're both ways. As you observe yourself in them, we're trying to protect our feelings when you do that. So when the next time you notice yourself in a pattern, observe that we're not feeling enough at some level, and in order to not feel enough, we're protecting ourselves by doing something in the head, and it's a pattern. That's why we have these patterns. And then we complain about the patterns, or we don't complain about them, and we just keep trying to work harder, and we keep repeating them again and again and again and again and again, because we don't have the courage to stop and be present with ourselves. We don't have the courage to stop and feel what's inside of us. And I'm here to tell you, it's not poor me. It's not weak. I'm here to tell you we've been told a lie. I'm here to tell you that having the strength and courage to be present with your feelings in a moment of intense pain or intense struggle is power. That is power that will set you free. The ability to feel present in your core through whatever is happening in life and feel that and continue to stand in that moment, that is power. Because what happens is when you take a big goal and you want to make something happen and you stand in your power, you're going to feel fear. And if you feel that fear and do it anyway, that's what life is. That's what the juice of life is. Like we're constantly dancing with fear and all these different emotions. So I've gone on a ramble. I'm like 30 minutes in, but I just wanted to say like why you keep repeating the same patterns in life, I would like to suggest is because you're afraid to feel. And I would like to invite you the next time you notice yourself in a pattern to be gentler with yourself, to take a time out, to take a pause, and to feel what's going on with you. Not the other person, not the circumstance, to feel what's going on with you and to just be okay with feeling that. Be present with how you feel. You don't have to do anything with it because we want to take it away. We want to get it away. It's not going to go away. My challenge to you is to feel it. What if it doesn't go away? Can you love it? Can you love those parts of yourself that may continue to show up and not go away? and be okay with that. And if you can do that, you can do anything, because that, to me, that's unconditional love. True unconditional love. I posted a quote earlier from this man, and it resonated so deeply with me. True unconditional love is loving somebody for who they are, not for who we want them to be, not for how they show up when we think they're this way. That's what we want them to be. But true unconditional love, and it all starts with me, it all starts with you. How can you truly unconditional love yourself? The way to unconditional love yourself is the ability to be with yourself when it's uncomfortable, and to love that part of yourself for whatever it is, whether or not it goes away. And just to be with you and love it. Just like you would with a child. Imagine somebody you love dearly. Imagine somebody you love more than life itself. Can you think of somebody? Do you like a child? Do you have a best friend, a wife, a husband, a partner, a parent? And imagine just for a moment, they go through the worst tragedy they've ever faced. Could you be there with them in a moment of utter pain, pleasure, tragedy that you cannot fix? Could you be there and just love them? That's it. Just be present with them and love them through that moment. That's what all this grief work's taught me. What I learned from this grief work is presence and love is the ability and the courage to be present with somebody without trying to fix it. Because there is no fix for some things in life. There is no fixing our inner child pain. I'm here to tell you it's not going to go away. And this is probably counterintuitive to every other quick thing out there. Everybody's about a quick fix. Take this away. Feel happy. This will make you feel better. This will make you feel this. What I'm here to tell you is, as we learn to unconditionally love ourselves through our good and our bad, we experience peace because we're unconditionally loving ourselves. So there's moments of happiness and there's moments of pain and struggle, and I'm okay with both. I'm at peace with myself. I'm becoming more at peace. It's an ongoing process. There isn't a goal I'm discovering through this work, but I'll tell you, our ability, our compassion as a human to be there with other people, our ability and compassion to be there with others is our ability and compassion to be there with ourselves. So I know this was a message today. I just was feeling it deeply, and I so want each of you to feel peace. I so want each of you to experience the life that you want. You know, I want you to feel the love and connection you're craving with your partner. I want you to feel that with you. I want you to, what you feel like that money will give you, what you feel like the success will give you if you have it. I want you to feel that with you before, whether you have it or you don't. You know, I want you to feel the sense of peace within that you deserve, regardless of anything externally. And I feel like if we can start on that basis, if we can start off with truly loving ourselves unconditionally, we can have so much compassion for others because I'm not triggered anymore. If I'm fully at peace with me, you do you. I'm going to speak my truth. These cats are having a heyday as we're going on through this. So I'm going to speak my truth whether or not you agree, because it has nothing to do with me. I'm going to speak my truth whether or not I'm liked or not liked. I'm going to speak my truth whether or not, as long as I'm at peace with me and I'm speaking that, I'm at peace with me. So I'm going to speak it, but I'm going to speak it from a place of heart. I'm going to speak it from a place of truth. I'm going to speak it from a place of vulnerability. And I'm not responsible for you. I'm responsible to feel at peace with me. And I'm finding the more I can do that, then race, religion, political beliefs, any of it doesn't matter. I can own what mine are and feel at peace within me. I'm not triggered by you when you're different. We're humans. And I guess this message is I just want us to all be more connected as humans. I love all of you, and I hope all of you experience more peace in life, and I hope this helps. I'm feeling much more at peace, and I want you to have the same peace that I'm experiencing on a more regular basis. So I'm wishing you all a beautiful day.